So hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I appreciate you being here. Today we are down next to my greenhouse and I have this bee balm and I can't tell you how pathetic it looks. We are at the end of June and I've put quite a few of them in my garden, and I'm actually going to pot these up for sales in my new farm stand that we're going to be building, and that's going to be part of the channel here. So if you want to watch that progress, be sure you're subscribed. But they look really sickly right now, don't they? And I'm going to show you probably how root bound they are. But we're going to get them put into 1-gallon pots, get some fertilizer on them, and then in a later video I will show you just how pretty these will get, and they'll be glorious by the time they're ready for sale. So in my tray, this is just one of those standard like little concrete mixing tubs that you can get at the big box stores. I have, oh, and there's always junk. When you open up like potting mixes and stuff, it gets so annoying. I find pieces of string trimmer line. This looks like foil. Anyway, so I have a combination of just regular store brand potting mix, and then I also have some steer manure in here. And then I have just this granulated organic fertilizer, and I'm just going to put this in here, get it mixed up, and then we'll fill up our pots. Okay, wasn't going to bore you with mixing that up. I've done that in several videos previous. So what I'm going to do is, here is my gallon pot. I'm just going to fill it up about 3/4 of the way, I would say. And then I'm going to take my sad looking bee balm, and look at those roots. This poor little thing is so root bound. But I'm just going to tug the roots apart down here. Not going to hurt it. When I first started doing this kind of stuff, it's been over 30 years now, aging myself, I was so afraid to do this, and I was so afraid to like pinch and all the crazy things that I do now without thinking about it, but it really is for the benefit of the plant. But I'm just going to take a little more of that granule fertilizer, mix it into where the root base is going to sit in my pot. You can see down in there. And then I simply just take handfuls and dump it around, give it a little shake. And then I'll take my fingers and I'll work it around the edge of the pot just to make sure that I've got it all down in there. And then we have it all probably, oops, I'm shaking you. So we have it nice and good like that now. And I'm going to take even more of this granulated fertilizer, and I'm going to sprinkle it around the top. And I'm going to get this a good water in, as well as all the rest of them that I'm going to do. And then I will show you how I keep them damp and well hydrated. So I'll just do 1 or 2 more. Oh, this poor baby. He's going to be so happy once he gets to spread his roots. Sorry if I'm shaking the crap out of you. This table is not the greatest. Okay. Give him a little sprinkle of some granular fertilizer. And like that, we have 2 done. And I will come back when we have them all done. I just had to show you, I opened up this pot, and if you can see, there is actually a worm in here. Looks like a young baby worm. I honestly, it just never ceases to amaze me how worms end up getting into my pots, because these are in little 4-inch pots, in watering trays, up on a table. And magically, I don't know if there's like worm eggs that are in the soil, or if they just find their way up there. Do you ever have that happen? Just curious, because I always find it really intriguing. Okay, first things first, we're going to get them all watered in. Not only will this get the potting mix all snug around the existing roots, but it will also help firm the soil down enough to where I don't have any up near the surface of the edge. So I just buy this bark mulch in the bags from the big box store. And then I just take some and I just sprinkle it around. Again, I give it a little bit of a shake. And I just create a layer around the top of my pot. And that just helps the water from evaporating so bad. And then I also put them in, there is a mesh tray, and underneath the mesh tray is a solid tray to hold water. And I pretty much keep them in these all summer long until I'm ready to sell them, so that I can keep the moisture level even inside the pots. So there we go. We've got them all mulched in, and these should be good to go. When it does get hot, I will be watering these at least 2 times a day, probably, even with the mulch on top, just because most of the potting mix surface is exposed, meaning on all sides except for the bottoms. These pots heat up really dramatically when the sun hits them, so I have to keep on top of it. Put up deer deterrent, they said. It will help, they said. I don't think it helped. The last 2 days we have had a really welcome soaking rain because for Oregon we have been incredibly dry. But these, like I had mentioned before, are starting to bolt, so I am going to go ahead and get this all trimmed up and just put in the dehydrator so I can use it for later. And I'll just take the big leaves off the bottom. You can just trim these and have them push back out, but I have just found that once it gets to a certain temperature, I should say, it's just kind of over. So I'm just going to trim these up, take them out, and then do another batch in the fall. So we are all trimmed up, and there is still some greenery left on these stalks, so they potentially could grow some more nice leaves that I can dehydrate, but more than likely they'll probably just send up a woody stalk and bolt. But here's my little haul for this morning, and I still haven't even picked the peas. I started harvesting peas, and I just wanted to kind of show you 3 different ways you can tell if peas are ready. Now the first way is kind of the pinching method. If you pinch them and there's no give to it, that means the pea has fully filled out the pod, like these have. So let's grab these. The second way is when you feel them and they kind of feel like they're hard, but if you tap them, you hear that rattling? Now let's tap one that's fully ready to pick. So here's one that's fully ready to pick. It's nice and firm, and you hear there's no rattle. And I will show you the third way. And the third way is if you have enough light in the morning, you can kind of hold the pod up towards the light and see how you can, sorry about that, see how you can see like right along here the little peas. It might be kind of hard. See if I can find another one. Okay, so see this one? It's feeling like it's plumping out. There is still a little squish to it, but you can see through the pod all the little peas, and they're not fully developed yet. So that's just 3 ways you can tell if peas are ready. I'm going to continue picking these, and then we're going to get them shelled and ready for the freezer. So there are 2 ways I have found that make it easy to open a pea, and it depends on how full the pea is. So this one is pretty darn full, so it doesn't pop. This one isn't, so I can literally pop it open with my fingers and pull the peas out. Now this one, because it is a little on the fuller side and maybe a little more developed than I actually would like, you take the top and you string it, and then I take the bottom and I string it the other way, and then that way you can pull it open. Now see this one right here, these are a little too tough for me. Some people don't mind them, some people put them in soups. The chickens will actually get these, but those are the two ways that make it pretty easy to get peas open for shelling. The whole time lapse that you just watched, that was 26 minutes for this amount of peas. So what I'm going to do is I just did a parchment lined baking sheet, and I'm going to dump the peas out onto there. Spread them out into an even layer. And then I'm just going to stick these in the freezer and let them freeze for 4 to 6 hours, and then we'll get them put into their freezer bags. So I am down in the garden this morning, and it's a nice cool day, and I'm going to be working on snipping these zinnias. I don't have enough flowers collectively blooming yet to make bouquets to sell, but we're going to be kind of brutally cutting these back, and I'm going to show you just how brutal it can be. And then down here already, you can see I am just going to collect some of these and take them up in the house and stick them in a vase and enjoy them. Honestly, as the season goes on, I deal with so much flowers that I get kind of tired of it, but in the beginning it's always fun. So let me show you how I am going to clip a plant, and it's going to look horrible. So you see this zinnia right here. I'm going to go down under the floral netting and see how it has all these side branches, and then it even has like little buds coming out on some of those branches. Because I want longer stems, I am literally going to come right down in here and chop this off. And so that's what's left of my plant. And this right here is what we just cut off. And you can see there's little sides, there's like 4 different side shoots that would have produced flowers. But the problem is that they produce very short stems, and I just don't need a whole bunch of short stems. So that's what I'm going to be working on this morning. Okay, I have gone through and snipped almost all of them, and as you can see, there's hardly any color left in my row. And honestly, this is kind of what it looks like when you have a flower farm. Now, I do flowers and veg, but people always say, oh, I want to come out and see all your beautiful flowers. But the truth of the matter is, when you have a flower farm, you cut your flowers before they are usually fully open so that the customer gets to enjoy them as they open. But I wanted to show you this. Now, here is the base of the plant. And do you see just how tall these snapdragons are? This is because we snipped out that central stem, and look at how long each one of these side branches gets when you do that. So even if you don't grow flowers for cut flowers to sell, if you just want to enjoy some bouquets in your home, the best thing you can do is snip out the central stem, and it works on most flowers. There are a few that it does not, but that way you can get nice long stems for bouquets just in your home to enjoy. So this is my Persian cress, and I need to harvest it. I am a tad bit late. I don't like it when it's quite this color. I like it when it's a little more that color of the tall one behind it. But we had heavy rains come through the last 2 days, and it has knocked some of them over. So I'm just working on getting them all clipped, and then we're going to get the leaves stripped off the bottom and hung up to dry. And unfortunately I have to cut them off at the base of the stem like this because of the flower netting right here. It just gets all tangled together. So that's what I'm going to be doing, and then I just get a hold of one and very carefully work it down through, because these also bend very easily and then they're ruined. So I'm going to just work on that. Probably take me a little bit, and shake a little bit of the water off gently before we dry them. Now I'm going to harvest some of these straw flowers. Some of them are just going to be for bloom heads, and a few of them I may do for cut flowers. I'm harvesting the first ones are the ones that I did not snip. So you can see they'll have a whole bunch of blooms on one stem. And this one is really tall. So I'm just going to work on getting these cut. So this is one where I did not cut the central stem. So I'm going to come all the way down, and here's the ground, and I'm going to come all the way down into here and snip it. And you can see once I snip it, it's just a long central stalk. All right, I also want to show you this one right here. Has this bloom, and then it has a whole bunch of buds coming on it. If we go down into the center of the plant, sorry, I move everything. Can you see all the way down there in the center? That's where I snipped the plant. And as I had mentioned in a previous video, when you snip the central stalk off, it'll send up really long, tall side shoots. And I am going to snip this one, and I'll show you just how tall it is. So I don't have my tripod with me, but you can see this is really long. I would say this is probably 2 feet, and they will get even taller. So there are certain flowers that are really good to snip the central stem out of when you are growing for cut flowers, because this is what they'll give you. And even when I cut this side branch off, where I cut it off at down near the base, it will branch out again and send up a whole bunch more of these. Now for the straw flowers, I am going to just clip all of these off, and then I dry them on a cookie sheet, or not a cookie sheet, I dry them on a cooling rack, and I will show you that. But for now, we're just going to trim all of these off, and I just literally go right under the bloom head, and I usually give just a tiny bit of stem and trim them off. And straw flowers make a lot of foliage. I mean, look at all that. Now this one, as it dries more, it's going to have a more blown open look. Some people really like that. And these, at this stage, they will open a little bit more when they dry, but they will not be like blown wide open. And if you want all different shapes and sizes, you even can dry these little buds. Now a little later in the season, as the straw flowers get going, there will be some where I take about open like this, and then what I do is I take one of my floral wires and I stick it up into the base of the flower, and then I wrap it around the stem and hang it upside down to dry. Straw flowers aren't super great dryers without a wire support. You can do it, but they tend to break easy. And I find a lot of crafters just like to use the bloom heads anyway. But I will probably show the wiring of the flowers in another video. Okay, that's it for the straw flowers. And now with the Persian cress, I am going to be taking some of these lower stems that I don't need off, as well as just stripping the base of the leaves and some of these bigger leaves up here. And see what I mean by bending easy? They're pretty soft stems when they are fresh. Once they dry, they're pretty sturdy. But I'm just going to work on doing this to the leaves, and then as soon as I get enough for a bundle, we will wrap them with our rubber band and we will get them hung up, and I will show you what I'm going to hang them on. Okay, so now I have a nice bundle put together, and I am just going to come down here, and I either clip the first thick stalk, or if there's a bunch of thin ones like this, I'll just do a whole bunch at once in order to, because you really need to pull this tight so that when they start shrinking from drying, they don't slip off. But I will just take this big one here. I'm just going to wrap it tight and tuck it back through the flowers. And then we will get a hook put on that, and I will show you where I'm going to hang these. So I have this old-fashioned clothes drying rack, and I am just going to hang them on here for now. It's in the shade. Ideally, I would like to have it out of brightish light, but for now, this is where they're going to hang. Okay, this is where they are going to hang for a while, and then I will work on getting them in a spot that is a little darker. But out here, it rained for 2 days straight, as I mentioned, when we were cutting them, and they're really still kind of damp, so the breeze that we have going on today is really going to help get these dried out. This is the cookie sheet, and I'm just going to tuck them in here like this. Okay, they're all laid out on the cookie sheet, and now we will just leave them there and wait until they're dried. So this right here is feverfew, and I use it in bouquets, but I also dry it. And in an upcoming video, I am going to be doing a complete video, I think, on harvesting and drying some flowers. And there are several varieties of flowers that I dry, and I always have people say, oh my gosh, I never knew those dried, or they dried that pretty. So look forward to that coming up in an upcoming video. So until then, thanks for hanging out with me today, and I will see you next time.